Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends of the program and otherwise. Let me be the first to welcome you to the internationally acclaimed Kaos Tonight. Good evening, everybody. Glad to see you. If you don't know who I am, if you haven't seen the show before, I'm your intrepid host, the mighty Yellkaos, here to just say what I feel and feel what I say and do all that sort of thing, and I hope you'll come along for the ride. Before we get too far along, I want to remind everybody to click the box down below. They used to call it the description box. You'll find all the links to find out what I'm doing and where I'm at on the social media, on your Twitter, on your Facebook, on the Nintendo MiiVerse if you got yourself one of them Wii U boxes. You know the kind right behind me there with the screen of the controller. Check all that stuff out. If you want to see what I'm doing, make sure to subscribe to the program if you didn't know already. I want to share this with you because this is interesting. This is I guess a first for me, getting to be the opening act for, if you didn't know, my very good friend Kid Shoryuken and some buddies of his, some talent that he's working with. They're doing a live show right after this program. So as soon as I'm done right here, guys, if you could check it out down below, it's that first link right there to go and check out Kid Shoryuken and Friends tonight, right after our program tonight. And I hope you go and check it out and have a good time. Tell them Kaos sent you. And make sure that it's a great one, and I hope you guys have a great time at that. Now, if I forget later, I want to remind each and every one of you about the Hate Bit podcast, Pissing in the Live Stream, number 7. That's going to be on Friday, April the 3rd, and I hope to see each and every one of you there. I want you to know that we're going to be taking questions from the question box in just a little bit, so please let your questions fill it up. And if you know anything about this program, you'll know that the question and comment and concern box just has this tendency to take on a life of its own. So please engage in the conversation. And also, again, if I didn't make it very clear already, you can contact me on the Facebook and on the Twitter. All the necessary materials are down there. So I thank you for joining me, because there's lots of things you could be doing right here on a Thursday night. But welcome to a very special Kaos Tonight. Not here for a whole lot of reasons, but I figured I'd come on. This is an opportunity for me to something I haven't done before. If I didn't make that already clear, is that I get to be the opening act, and I get to plug this thing that Kid Shoryuken's doing. And again, I really hope you guys go and check it out and spread your good vibes or whatever else it is that you spread. And again, tell them that Yellkaos sent you. And hopefully it's a good show, and I hope that you guys have a great time. So I'm going to be checking out the questions section in just a little bit. But I got a few questions a little earlier about if you follow the Hate Bit podcast at all on the Facebook, and you'll find that link down there below. I'll let you know who said that. I took it upon myself after a few things that I stumbled across in the news when I checked the news in the morning. I try not to, because it's usually bad news designed to warp the way you think and get you to eat at McDonald's. And I can't say that I condone that sort of thing. But, what I condone is really not that important. The point is, fuck Indiana. I understand that the governor of Indiana, whatever the fuck his name was, I can't remember off the top of my head, signed. I kind of just, I'll explain myself. I kind of flew off the handle a little bit, because there's a new law on the books in the state of Indiana, and I got upset for a brief time. My mistake to get upset. But and I lashed out. And sometimes you lash out. It happens. We're all people. We're all just regular humans, and sometimes that's just what happens. But there was the media has this ability, this habit, if you will, to paint a picture for you before you even with a headline before you even read the article. And I've since done some more reading, and I didn't understand the way it was being explained to me, but apparently this is some sort of a discriminatory law that the way it was originally portrayed was that it would force business owners to discriminate within line of their religious beliefs, which I'm not sure which part of that to really combat first. So I will say this. I don't think that it's going to go over very well. But one thing I will say, and it was I think it was Gen Con, one of the leading Midwest gaming conventions, has threatened to pull their business from the state of Indiana, and good on them. They can do what they want. But I read a little more about this law, and essentially is just in place so that way business owners can discriminate against homosexuals. I don't know how you do that. Do gay people have a specific way in which they buy Funyuns or something? I don't understand how you would really discriminate against those people unless you did like a serious background check, because no one walks in with a shirt into a Five and Dime and that's with a shirt that says faggot on it. So I don't understand how that's really going to work out. And realistically, if that allows everyone to discriminate on the basis of sexual preference, way to really pump up your fucking economy, Indiana. And, you know, and I'll say with closing, because I don't want to dedicate too much time to this subject, but in closing, I want to say that way to inspire your fucking economy, number one. And number two, I realized that I just don't care. And if you want to know why I don't care, I'll tell you why I don't care. For the same reason that everyone who's watching this program and hears anything I say who comes from the state of Indiana. Indiana is the state that has Gary, Indiana. Now, if you don't know why that's bad, good. Go do something else and don't worry about it. Meanwhile, the people who have been to Gary, Indiana, the people who live near Gary, Indiana, know that Gary, Indiana is a fucked up piece of shit place that shows that the state of Indiana has no right being a goddamn state. So those are my feelings, and that's why I just don't care. But it seems to me that people are going to declare war against Indiana because reasons. So that's all I really had to say about Indiana. If you wonder why I was so upset with the state of Indiana. Not upset with the state of Indiana. Nice people live in Indiana. But it was just something that I figured ought to have been said. So if you think I'm a dickhead, I'm sure nothing I said just then will really change your mind. But anyway, welcome to our program. And going to dive in and check out the questions in just a second. So I hope that everyone's well and prepared. In fact, we'll dig right in. With Santiago 316 wants to know my thoughts, and I knew this was going to come up. I knew this was going to be the topic du jour. I knew that this would be important to people. But my thoughts on Nintendo and the mobile situation. I love the way you totally colored it and painted it by calling it a situation. What it really is a business agreement that may or may not benefit both parties. But I love how it's being referred to like the Oklahoma Dust Bowl. Like this is some sort of man-made environmental catastrophe. And I don't think so, because in Japan, they're good at dealing with catastrophe, and this is not one of them. My thoughts, really, I watched the entire presentation, actually. I was fascinated with the fact that it was translated into English because... I don't know. I just thought that was kind of cool. I figured they went through all the trouble of translating into English. And for those of you that watched the program where Nintendo announced their partnership and a capital partnership, and if you don't know what capital partnership means, it essentially means that to show stockholders that this is a real full-blown partnership and not some fly-by-night thing to grab press interest, Nintendo is buying a rather large chunk of mobile developer DNA. And DNA doing the same thing, buying up some Nintendo stock to show that they really mean business. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, companies do this all the time. It's more of a way to inspire confidence from the stockholders. And also, it did what I think they intended it to do, because I understand Nintendo stock and DNA stock shot up drastically over the course of that first day after the announcement, or that day of the announcement. And I think it's interesting. There was a few people that immediately came to me right after I watched this thing. What do you think about this? And I didn't know really what to say about it. I said, you know, whatever makes for more Nintendo games, you know, I'm in favor of. A few people, two people actually gave me. I could have sworn there was the same person because their response was virtually the same. This is terrible. I know you've always said that they should never get involved in the mobile market. I said, well, that's not what I said. What I said is I don't think it would be a good idea to port existing games for existing hardware onto your smart device. Your smart device is a screen, is a capacitive screen. It will never suffice for buttons. They're not the same thing. In the same thing that no matter how hard they tried to make back in the 90s, they tried to make an audio cassette sound like a compact disc, it was not a compact disc. Not to say that one's better than the other, but they're not the same. And you can't treat them like they're the same. Because if you do, as I've said 100 times before, you put garbage in, you will get garbage out. You try and, mesh two things. Water and oil will never mix. But it seems to me what the steps that are about to be taken is Nintendo is going to use their IP in one way or another, hopefully better than Capcom has been doing with Mega Man in recent years. And there will be mobile games using Nintendo IP. And I would like to think that this means that some people at like Nintendo SPD and EAD and a lot of the first, second, and even third-party people that work with Nintendo will get involved in this and really try to, because this is a golden opportunity to me to really make the mobile scene worthwhile. Because I'm one of those guys that gives less than a shit about the mobile market. And I go on the Apple App Store, and I go on the Android market or the Google Play Store, whatever the hell it's called, and I look for games. And all I find is shitty versions of games I played 15 and 20 years ago, whether in the arcade or on a console, adapted with touchscreen controls that, if you're lucky, you get 85% of the original game experience, if you're lucky. Because let's face it, and no matter how much you want to dress it up, it's not the same. You have a software that was designed for specific hardware, and now you're making some other hardware, which has no idea what it's doing, trying to accommodate the experience. And I think it's a disservice both to the it's making the hardware and the software look like shit. The other concern I'm really having is I've seen very few lasting examples of anybody making any real money in the mobile market. Outside of Angry Birds and I'm sure there's a couple others that I can't think of right now. And Mrs. Yellkaos is big into one called Drop 7 from Zynga Games. Outside of those handful of good examples, can anybody show me where there's real money being made? There's successful companies, their name is really over and they're making money, but they're having to give the software away. And now what I think this could do in that regard, because let's step back for a second, because this is really not about Nintendo making money through the mobile platforms, and they're not going to come out and say that directly, because most of their investors don't understand a goddamn thing about any of this. They just want to hear that their stock will go up because they want to retire on it. I don't recommend that, but we've been through that before. So the point that I'm really stuck with is, will this bring more brand recognition for Nintendo? Yes, it's bound to, because you're bound to open yourself up to at least a smidgen of a new market. Will it be the blue ocean that they hope it will? I don't think so, because, I mean, let's face it, Nintendo is very much ingrained in the popular culture right now. I think that hunk of shit-looking Adam Sandler movie that's on the horizon is a testament to that. And so this will definitely help bring awareness. I think what this will do, because I think a lot of people when the Wii came out didn't even know that was a Nintendo product. I think a lot of people think that Nintendo disappeared somewhere in the early 90s, and now there's just some company who keeps making Super Mario figurines. That's what I think. And so I don't think a lot of people are aware that they still make video games, at least the people who don't play video games actively. As I've talked about before, I think a lot of the casual market that they once had a hold of, I don't think there's so much that they've gone to the mobile market for their electronic entertainment, but I think it's more of that they're mummies and daddies now and don't really have time for that sort of thing. That's just the way I feel about it. I could be totally wrong, but knowing what I know, from my experience, I am 31 years old. Oh, shit. Now I just ruined the trivia for everybody wondering how old I am. I am 31 years old, and a lot of my friends who are older than I am simply just stop playing games. They don't have time. They have children. They have families. They may find the time again, in a few years or whatever, when their kid's a little bit older and doing whatever they want to do, but they just don't have time for it, and it seems like all those people decided to do it all at once. And that's my feeling. But as far as DNA making games and Nintendo making games for the mobile scene, I think it's a great thing, because this will allow Nintendo to really take, and DNA for that matter, to take chances again. And not to say that they're not taking chances. There's a lot of people that insist on telling me that everything Nintendo is doing is a rehash of Mario or Zelda or Metroid, and that's just plain not true. That is the stone cold fact of the matter, that is just not true. If you own the Nintendo 3DS, which I was going to show my 3DS just now for my street cred, but apparently it's in the bedroom. Fuck. But if you own a Nintendo 3DS, you know all about Dylan's Rolling Western, Harmonite, Pushmo, reactivating of an old property, Tokyo Crash Mobs. They have taken all kinds of chances with new software, and and for some reason, everyone wants to look the other way at it, and I don't get that. Rusty's Real Deal Baseball comes to mind. Steel Diver Subwars. All kinds of new things that everyone just wants to look the other way at, so they have something to complain about. At least that's the way it feels. I don't know if that's entirely the crux of the matter, but that just seems the way things are. But anyway, that's really my feelings. If you have any further questions, please go ahead and drop a line down there, and I'll riff on it a little bit more if I feel the need. Also, don't forget to check me out on the Facebook, and if you have any further questions, you can always ask me questions there. That goes directly to me, and I'll get right back to you. And the Twitter, the Twitter's a place where if you want to bitch and have there be no retribution for it, that's a great place for it. So yeah, that's my feelings on Nintendo DNA. Let's go over to the questions now. And let's see what everyone's talking about, because there's always a spirited bunch that's in there. And let me. I think I have to say a few hellos to people. I understand that Lewis Williams is here, who's here all the time, and Super Saiyan 3 Domon. A lot of the guys who are here all the time. I really appreciate you guys making it out. Had to have a sip there. Everyone's saying hello while I was on that big long spiel. Splicer says that he finished Xenoblade Chronicles. Well, you didn't get a chance to go out, did you? I hope it was a lot of fun. I myself, I hope to get a chance to play that game. I hope I eventually have the time. I might get it for the new 3DS. Don't know yet. But that's a game that I've been very much interested to try, but I just don't dare because I don't have that much time on my hands, But anyway, Kit171 is talking smack. And he says that Nintendo made promises about the Wii U that never happened. I would like to see some examples. Notions maybe, but I don't know of anything really ever major that was announced that hasn't happened yet. I really feel that the Wii U gamepad as an immersion device is not really is not being implemented as well as it could, especially with all of the promise that was shown in Nintendo Land. I'm also sad that there was not another Nintendo Land. Maybe the next Nintendo system will have another Nintendo Land, because I thought that was a lot of fun. I really did. And Drag1090X says he hopes the Wii U gets a full 5 years. I'm sure the Wii U will get at least 5 years. We're already closing in on 3 years. So, and it's been a hell of a 3 years, goddammit. I don't care what anybody says. The Wii U has a staggering library, and no one, you'll notice that it took IGN and everyone to kind of come around to it. The Wii U is the system to get this year, because everything they fucking promised on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One fell flat on its face. And now they're moving their focus to virtual reality. It's like you have to have something to watch on the virtual reality. Everyone wants to be excited about hardware that shows no promise of software to entertain it. I don't get that. But let me see here. Ender Dragon over 9000 says, as to how I feel about the resurgence of strategy games. Has there really been? I know on mobile there's like Game of War and a lot of those. I don't really see those as really strict strategy games. They seem to be strategy games for those who aren't willing to spend any money or spend a nominal amount of money. Those always seem to me like the more money you throw at it, the faster you win. And that's not really winning, because if you win, you lose. And if you lose, you win. So again, you're left at stalemate. You're left in neutral. Are there other examples of strategy games? I mean, outside of, I know that finally there's been some Western buzz about Fire Emblem, if that's what you're talking about. Kit171 talks about when Reggie claimed they were going to get the hardcore gamer back. Once again, I really feel that statement was made when the notion of the hardcore gamer was dying. I get what you mean, and also don't forget, you're leaving out the second half of that, because that was a promise made in that something were to materialize, and that was third-party support. He guaranteed that through third-party support, and it seems like right after that, everyone couldn't wait to jump onto a slab and set the bridge on fire and let Nintendo die on their own. It seems like a matter of weeks went by before Ubisoft, Warner Brothers, everybody just left Nintendo and said, fuck you guys. We're going to go put some money into this Xbox One megalith. And we all see how well that fucking worked out. If you didn't know, and anybody wants to check the Wii U sales figures. It is outselling the Xbox One by a significant margin. So whatever you want to believe. And who's buying the PlayStation 4? I don't know. These numbers are getting highly suspect when you're seeing the sales figures on the software. I don't understand this. How the the hardware is so far outselling the software. The software saturation seems to be minimal. That's confusing to me. All these people are buying a machine that they want to hold down paper, it seems. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But let me see here. Black Metal or Die wants to know my favorite dissection album. What was the one with the purple cover? It escapes me for the time being. I can't remember the name. Shit. I'll get back to you on that. I have my iTunes up. I can tell you right now. I'm not good with the names of black metal albums because they're always in Latin and shit. And it's like, just call it something. You know, and it always is variations of Satan and goat and evil and stuff. If you don't believe me, see Belphegor. And Kip171 says he has a Wii U and uses it very rarely. That's funny because I use mine every day. I am still trying to beat Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. That game is fucking brutal, but it's a lot of fun. Great software that did. And I'm sure a lot of people finished that game before I did, but I have this bad habit of getting mixed in other games, and I got other things spinning. And that's tough also, bouncing back and forth between Lego City Undercover and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. You know, long load times versus longer load times, but still great software nonetheless. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble with the scrolling in the box there. While I'm trying to find something to say, I want to make sure and everyone goes and checks out Kid Shoryuken and Friends tonight, right after this program. Make sure and click the link right down there. It's very easy. You'll see it. And go check out Kid Shoryuken's program and see him and his friends, and settle in for a real great night of programming. So, and again, thank you for checking out Kaos Tonight. I also want to remind you, Pissing in the Live Stream, number 7, coming up very soon. So I want to make sure you guys don't forget that. Make sure you come out and check it out, because it's bound to be a great time, as it is each and every time. Well, not every time, but most of the time. And there's something to be said for that. Richie614A, great name, says that he bought a PlayStation 4, played the game he wanted to play, and sold it 2 months later. Well, good on you. But that's interesting. So it was essentially an advanced form of rental. I see. Interesting. You're probably following the Razor Fist method, which is, I think that's his plan. I think he's gonna sell that sumbitch as soon as he can. He was just suggesting it anyway. I don't know that it's entirely true. Let me have a drink of water here. I love scotch, but it doesn't have exactly the amount of water that I need for, making this come off as well as it does. Actually, not drinking scotch tonight. Drinking Canadian whiskey, because whiskey, eh? So anyway, did I talk about that? I think I did. And now I got to check over here. Oh, good. Make sure everybody's coming to the program. What else were we going to talk about tonight? Because I have completely lost my train of thought. I'm terribly sorry. PS4 is selling because of Disney Infinity. Are there any stats that back that? That's an interesting proposition. Z2K says PS4 is selling because of Disney Infinity. It seems to me like Disney Infinity sales are slowing. I've recently read that there's been a lot of ever since the Amiibo hit. Skylanders and Disney Infinity sales have slowed ever so slightly. Naturally, you'd imagine they would because, oh, excuse me, they're tapping into the same audience, if I'm not mistaken. And don't tell me we don't run, a Class A program right here on Kaos Tonight. God damn it. And they are tapping into the same market. Well, that's actually, that's interesting because it seems like Disney Infinity fans are Disney fans typically. Well, and they're going for kids, but the Amiibo really showed that they can bring out the heavy-duty, heavy-hitter Nintendo fans, and they can also bring out the opportunists and the scalpers. And both being, I guess, good for business, not good for public relations. But that's interesting. I think I'm going to do a little more research and see if there is a correlation between that. That seemed like sort of a not to insult you, my man, but that seems like sort of a skewed factoid. So I'm gonna have to look into that because I know that would be interesting to see a correlation between the two. But yeah, now and Lone Wolf Warrior brings up a good point that PS4 seems to be getting mostly remasters. I've noticed that, and they're games that are not that old. And okay, for instance, it could be said that this the retro game thing, which a lot of you fine folks might remember me from, when it was the most important thing on YouTube and is now sort of lapsing in popularity. It's still there, but not as strong as it once was. It seems like that was very much fueled by nostalgia. And for me, it was always about technical excellence. A good game is a good game regardless of when it came in. See? And a lot of people probably yelling at the screen right now saying, well, Simon sucks. I hate Simon. That's just because you suck at it. That's right. I said it. Pretty soon we're going to start seeing like Simon Let's Plays on YouTube. We need to work on that. There needs to be, that should be the new thing for Let's Players. Rubik's Cube and Simon. I want to start seeing that, man. People doing like, you could do like time trials and shit. And Simon World Records. That needs to be a thing. That really needs to happen right here in our gaming scene as soon as possible. I swear to you, that would just be the bee's knees. At least I think so. Lupicilla wants to know when everyone's going to see my Sega Saturn collection. My Sega Saturn collection is like 3 pieces of software and a few pieces of hardware. I don't even think I don't have the console, actually. I have wires for it. I have controllers for it. I have the steering wheel for it. And I have 2, maybe 3 pieces of software. And that's it. So that's why you haven't seen a Sega Saturn collection out of me. It just wouldn't be all that interesting. The video would be over before it started. I could do it all in one shot. No one wants to see that. Oh yeah, and Kits at 171 brings up the no backwards compatibility to make the remasters thing a segment of the market, which is kind of sad, really, because if you know anything about music, that's the last act of a desperate scoundrel, is to release the greatest hits album. You've got nothing else. You need to get out of your contract. Remaster, greatest hits, something. Ridiculous. And Splicer83 brings up about Bop It. I was just about to bring up Bop It and Skip It because I've been trying to develop for some time. None of my friends will go for this. I've been trying to develop a way to gamble using Bop It, and I'm working on it. And there could be a way. I was actually earlier trying to figure out how to gamble using Simon, and as soon as I do. Could you just see that as that's a slot machine waiting to happen? That's a new kind of slot machine just waiting to happen. Why is this not a thing yet? I gotta talk to the people at what the fuck is the name of those people? W something amusement and something. I got a friend that works for some slot machine company. I got to talk to them. They got a license, Simon or Atari Touch Me or something, and they could make a slot machine. They could just take people's money. That shit is addictive and would take money all day long. And it'd be skill based. And there'd be you could level the playing field if you were really good. These are things that casinos need to be thinking about. But that's another talk. I want to have a talk. I don't know if I've talked about this. I said talk a lot in that real short span. My very, 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 very good friend, Mr. Ed Torno, Ed T1138, very, very good friend of mine, a man that I hold in a very high esteem. He and I had a discussion. I asked, I wanted to do a talk about adult gaming. And he said, you mean like the nudie playing cards? And I said, no. I said, I like what you're thinking, but not the nudie playing cards, even though it was a good thought. But I want to have a talk about casino gaming because that's something, and if you've watched the Full Metal Vegas videos at all, you'll see that I do spend a good amount of time gambling in a casino because I like those. Those are video games too, and I like those too. I really want to have a talk one of these times about that, and I hope you guys don't mind when we finally do that because I just think it would be fantastic to really talk about how gaming for people outside of our demographic, and you might move into that demographic because some of you, I know there's a lot of folks out there who are not old enough to gamble yet or to play wagering video games, and that's all right. You might eventually fall into that, and their idea is to like license Centipede, and I think that's a really shitty idea. I think that there are games that could be skill based that could take a lot of money, but could really pay off if you really honed your game. At least that's what I think. And so I like to have a talk about that one of these times. I know that might not sound interesting to you kids, but if it is, hopefully we'll have a talk about that. But anyway, and Lupacillo suggested there should be hopscotch Let's Plays. It's not far off. That shit is not far off. And also there'll be Pogs. Myself and Mrs. Yellkaos, we're going to have a Pogs Let's Play right here on the Yellkaos program. In fact, if I ever get going to some of these game conventions again, I'm bringing Pogs. And I am going to whip your ass at Pogs. And then it's going to get all heated. And then we're going to start playing slammers. And then it's going to get physical. So prepare yourselves and shit. Hopefully it doesn't get too physical. But you know what I'm saying. And as far as the D&D Let's Play, I'm pretty sure that Varg Vikirnes from Burzum has beat you to that. Has beat everybody to that. Killed a man, went to prison only to review Dungeons and Dragons. God bless Norway. Oh, sorry. So, anyway. Lupacillo suggests there should be Spin the Bottle and Cops and Robbers Let's Play. Spin the Bottle. I'm pretty sure shit like that. Speaking of game conventions... I understand shit like that goes on at these game conventions. So for you young kids that haven't yet had your winky whacked, I guess go to the game convention and bring yourself a bottle. Because these game conventions have girls now, and they'll kiss anybody from what I heard. I'm not going to tell you who told me that. No, I'm not going to tell you who told me that. I was about to give it away. But I've heard. I heard it through the grapevine, and I don't want to pass on any rumors about where's going on specifically, but I've heard that these things do go on. I've heard probably a lot in the Midwest, and those girls, they'll kiss anybody. No offense. Jonathan Hall wants to know, do I play any trading card games? No. I have a few friends that are really into those. A good friend of mine, maybe you've heard of him, Alpha Omega Sin. He just has this big boner for Magic the Gathering, and I don't give a fuck about Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or any of that stuff. If I play a game with cards, it's usually poker. I love to play poker. That's my game. If I'm going to play with cards, I love to play poker. I wish I was into those sorts of things, but those seem to be like the pin trading at Disneyland. It's just a hustle to get you to spend money on the so-called collectible items that they keep making. It's hard to call it collectible if you keep making them and manufacturing them all willy-nilly, So, and now someone's referencing Cops and Robbers against Battlefield Hardline. Yeah. You wonder why the youth of America is so goddamn fat. They don't even go outside to play cops and robbers anymore. That yeah. And Kid 171 says there's a new game called LA Cops. I'm not familiar with LA Cops myself. I'm familiar with LA Machine Guns. I remember LA Machine Guns. I loved LA Machine Guns. Those things were fucking heavy though. If you remember, it was a light gun game with one of the heaviest goddamn light guns I ever saw. It had to be attached to the console because you couldn't lift it. Also, light gun technology has changed drastically since then. That's why they're also lightweight now, and that might be why they suck. Could be wrong. I could be wrong. But yeah. Ed American wants to know, am I a fan of pinball? Holy shit, am I a fan of pinball? Are you new? Am I a fan of pinball? I thought I went on and on and on about pinball. I make Mrs. Yellkaos go to Las Vegas every year to play pinball at the Pinball Hall of Fame. If you've never heard of the Pinball Hall of Fame in Las Vegas, it's the place to be. I absolutely adore pinball, whether mechanical, solid state, hybrid. I absolutely love pinball. I love video pinball, different video pinballs. And in fact, I want to take this chance. I don't know if I've plugged this game before, but I want to remind everybody to check out on your Nintendo DS, Metroid Prime Pinball. I want you to check that out. If you want a video pinball game unlike any other, check out yourself some Metroid Prime Pinball. I happen to adore it. And also on DSiWare, there's also from the same developer, Fuse Games, I think it was. They did Pinball Pulse, The Ancients Beckon. Check that one out too. I recommend it very highly. It reminds me of Caesar's Palace for some reason. Gabe the Gen says, who isn't a fan of pinball? There are people. I know that they're not a fan of pinball, but I know that I am very much a big fan of pinball. Kit171 asked, did I hear that Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove has been successfully funded? Cool. I'm not paying a fucking dime for it, but that's uber cool. I think that's really neat that they got some money there. That's really cool. I also heard, and if I'm not mistaken, that Super Troopers 2, the fellas over at Broken Lizard, they have successfully funded Super Troopers 2. They've garnered something like over $2 million for this new project. And I think that's really cool. I think it's really strange that no film studio would back a picture like that, especially as successful as Super Troopers was. Granted, there was also that Club Dread thing, but what are you going to do? I think that's really cool. So, I think that's pretty neat. Let me see here. Black Middler Die says, what do you think Chuck Schuldiner would have done next if he didn't pass away? I'm sure he would have had something to eat. I don't know. I imagine he would have continued to complain. It's really hard to say because, Chuck died of cancer, and you really can't tell because cancer is not something that takes you in the moment, like being hit by a bus. Cancer is something that takes years from your life. So would metal be in a different place if Chuck Schuldiner had not passed away? I don't think so. I don't think that Chuck Schuldiner was really as important as everyone gives him credit for being. Not to say that he wasn't important in the history of heavy metal, but I think that he probably would have done the same thing as a lot of his contemporaries, much like what happened to, this is a bad example, like how Morbid Angel. Death would have stuck around long enough to become old and annoying like Morbid Angel. That's just the way I feel about it. And look at right in the middle of the goddamn show, the Wii U is throwing a promo right now, telling me about Mario Party 10. Dig that right in the middle of Kaos Tonight, you motherfuckers. I expect a royalty check in the mail as soon as possible. Let me see here. How well can I type? I cannot type. I can type okay. I know that I can type better than my father-in-law. My father-in-law is still one of these guys. I've at least got use of all my fingers. I'm not very fast. One thing that I talked about, and I swear I've talked about on this program, and I'm gonna make it good. I need to get a hold of the Typing of the Dead and the keyboard for the Dreamcast, because Mrs. Yellkaos' mother used to be a federal court reporter here in California, and I have never seen typing. There's been instances where I have just sat and spoke like I'm doing to you right now, and she transcribed the whole thing without any trouble. And she wanted me to give her something more difficult. You know, she wanted me to speak faster, and which I was thoroughly impressed by. And Janine, Mrs. Yellkaos, if you've ever seen her type, holy shit, because she had a great teacher, her mother. But one of these times, I am going to show you to watch Mrs. Yellkaos' mother just beat the shit out of the Typing of the Dead, and you will be impressed. That will be one of the greatest Let's Plays. That will be one of the greatest Y plays in the history of YouTube. I assure you, she will just absolutely demolish it. I can't wait, and I hope that you guys can't wait too. So I hope you're looking forward to that. That's going to come, I promise. Hopefully, I'll have that out before I get the heavy metal kazoo album out of the way. You know, we've all got to have our priorities. You know, that's important. It's been a few minutes, so I want to remind each and every one of you that this is actually tonight. I'm doing the opening act for Kid Shoryuken and Friends. So right after the program, please check out the link down below and go check out Kid Shoryuken and Friends and see what they're doing tonight right here on YouTube. I hope you guys check it out, and I hope you have a great time, and I hope it's a great show. So if I didn't. And also, I want to remind you about Pissing in the Live Stream. Number 7. I've told you 3 fucking times now. April the 3rd, Friday. So it's a Friday. You've got nowhere else to be. I know it. And I think that'll be at, don't quote me, but I think it's 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, which I think is 1 a.m. Greenwich Meridian time for you folks in the United Kingdom and Ireland and Europe and all that stuff. And I can't think of every time zone. I wish I could. I wish my brain worked that way and I knew all of them all at the same time, but I don't. So let me see here. Lone Wolf 40 wants to know what I think about the Rey Mysterio controversy. I don't know that there's much of a controversy going on. I haven't read too much into it. I know that there's still an investigation ongoing. If you're unaware, I talked about it earlier in the week. I announced the passing of Pedro Aguayo Jr., or Junior, as they say in Mexico, and who passed away in the ring. I was very much taken aback by that, because that's... If you don't know me, professional wrestling is something I take very seriously, in that it's just something I have an immense amount of respect for. Maybe not the people that engage in it, but the sport itself. And it's always, that doesn't happen very often. It's a shame when someone does pass with their boots on in the ring. I know that this would not surprise me as being something of maybe a collapsed aorta, which is not unheard of. People have died in the ring before. I'm not going to pretend like it hasn't. This major level in AAA, that's, you know, pretty big time. But I want to wait until I hear more. I don't want to jump to conclusions. I want to hear more about the investigation. Again, some people brought to my attention, don't you think it's ridiculous that they're having an investigation of Rey Mysterio? That's just standard government jurisdiction. That's just standard procedure. This has to be done. Someone died. You have to document these sorts of things. You have to feel bad for Ray, for Oscar. He, I'm not aware of too many injuries taking place on his watch. So I hope that, it's kind of a somber moment, but it's, I want to wait to hear what's going to come of that. I don't want to jump to any conclusions. But, poor Rey Mysterio. And, you could say poor Pedro Aguayo, but the fact remains he's dead. His troubles are over. So, but now, and, you had to think, Pedro Aguayo, at the hands of his friend, Rey Mysterio. So it was a sad day for professional wrestling, and it will be sad for a little while longer, not just for their families, but, just the family legacy. Pedro Aguayo, his father, just a tremendous legacy in Mexico and internationally in professional wrestling, lucha libre circles. So rest in peace to Pedro Aguayo Jr. And I don't see there any cause or call for wrongdoing of any kind. But we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait and see to what the I think that was the state of Chiapas, or was it Chihuahua? I can't remember. But the district attorney there is looking into it, and we hope for the best. At least I do. Nicholas Kennedy wants to know, do I like the band Tool? No. And I don't like A Perfect Circle either. I have never understood I always feel the same way that I feel about Godsmack. People like this. People buy this on purpose. Regardless of what I think about Maynard James Keenan, who I think is kind of a tremendous douche. But what are you gonna do? No, I don't care for that band. I wish I could. Kit 171 wants to know if I find Toad to be an annoying character. No, not at all. No, I love Toad. Toad's great. Toad's strong too. He can throw shit. No, not at all. Annoying characters would probably be like Pauline. Pauline doesn't do shit except dress like a whore and get kidnapped by Donkey Kong. That's all she does. She doesn't do anything else. Peach, can sail through the air and let people look up her dress or something. I don't know about all that. But she does things. Pauline doesn't do shit. Except, like I said, dress like a whore and get kidnapped. So, let me see here. Lupacilla talks about Janine being a good secretary, Mrs. Yellkaos. Yes, in fact, somebody asked me one time on here, way back when, if I liked Ghostbusters. And I said, yes, I like Ghostbusters. I like Ghostbusters so much, I married a girl named Janine. That's how much Ghostbusters means to me. Just so you know. Nitro Java says that Tails is annoying. Yes, Tails is annoying too. But I still think Pauline is edges out Tails. Because Tails can fly. Pauline can't do anything except dress like a whore and get kidnapped. So that's what that is. Mortalica03 wants to know my favorite Kiss song. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. See, because Kiss, God, that's a long discography. If I could see, I don't know. I don't know if I can narrow it down to just one. I will say my favorite non-makeup Kiss, the first non-makeup Kiss, the glammy Kiss, would probably be Who Wants to Be Lonely from the Animalize record, or was that Asylum? I can't remember off the top of my head, but Who Wants to Be Lonely? With the makeup on the first time, I would say my favorite classic Kiss song. Oh, goodness gracious. I really have to think about this. If you guys could just let me sit here with my drink for just a minute. I really have to think about that because that's a very good question. There's so many good ones. I would think Black Diamond. A lot of people say Strutter or Cold Gin, but I'm going to lean towards Black Diamond or Coming Home. Coming Home, that's a good one. That's a good one. And Do You Love Me? That's another good one. As far as the second coming of No Makeup, when the latter day Kiss, I didn't really like that period. Oh, I take that back. I guess Unholy would be a good example of that. And then when they put the makeup back on in the 90s, I think my favorite song from them then would either be Psycho Circus or Raise Your Glasses, both coming from the same album. And I guess a lot of people talk about Nothing Can Keep Me From You, which was the theme or the love theme from Detroit Rock City. If you don't remember Detroit Rock City, don't worry, it's not that big a deal. I think it was the precursor to That 70s Show, if you really think about it. If you don't know what That 70s Show is, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Tasty stuff. So yeah, that's my feelings about Kiss songs. Jack 409 wants to know where I met my wife. I met my wife on the internet. That's just a fact of the matter. We met on the internet and we talked about the Wii for a little while. And she came to see me. We had lunch and she fell in love with me, and it's been years now. And I don't know. I mean, if she hasn't, run away screaming by now, it must be an okay thing. Let's Let me see. Fatality65 wants to know my thoughts on Jason Voorhees and the Predator being in Mortal Kombat X. Cool, whatever. Who cares? I can't get excited about intellectual property from when I was a little boy being in modern video games. I really don't understand who their demographic is. They're clearly trying to access and appeal to people my age, but people my age, I'm part of a very sharp demographic of people that don't have children and don't have a family life so much at this age. So I don't understand who, if they're going after me, I'm not buying it. So they better start trying to sell shit to other people. I really thought that Mortal Kombat peaked at Mortal Kombat 2. I have a similar feeling about the Street Fighter series, and everyone could say that I'm just an old fuddy-duddy, as some people would say. Some people have called me a fuddy-duddy. I think they're fucking retarded, but they have a right to their opinion. So yeah. And Sigma Sean just got his Mario Party advert on his Wii U gamepad. I'm sure we all got it at the same time. So, and for those of you who've been watching, there's a little blue orb right over my shoulder, right above my thumb. See that? Yeah, right there. That's been blinking, and everyone's watching that. They're not watching me. But let me see here. Kit171 talks about the Psycho Circus game that came along with the enhanced CD. For those of you that remember enhanced compact disc. And yeah, the first-person shooter was super lame. And so were the toys and everything else that came out of Psycho Circus. The best thing about that album was probably the tour. Let me see here. Lewis Williams wants to know my favorite Alice Cooper and Ozzy albums. Ooh! Let me sink my teeth into this. My favorite Alice Cooper album is an album called Trash. I absolutely adore that album. It was right before I think I didn't want anything more to do with Alice Cooper. After that, I think the coolest thing about Alice Cooper is that he was friends with Groucho Marx. That's really like the coolest thing about Alice Cooper after that. Favorite Ozzy album? I'm trying to think. Album on the whole. I want to say my favorite. I want to say No Rest for the Wicked. It's probably my favorite Ozzy album. It's an album I can listen to virtually any time. Not every song on it's fucking fantastic, but it's a solid effort, and I enjoy it. Kit171 wants to know what I think about Pearl Jam. I think Pearl Jam sucks. I like a handful of Pearl Jam songs, but I just don't give a shit about Pearl Jam. I like that Fixer song that they did a few years back, and I like that Better Man song. I play that song whenever I'm warming up all the time. I'd play it on the show, but I'll get sued or something. Let me see. Lucas still wants to know if I read the Super Mario Brothers adventure books in the 90s. Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, they were in the school library. I think I talked about this years ago. They were in the school library along with Nintendo Power. And that was like the coolest thing ever. I did not get a proper education of any kind, but my school library had Nintendo Power. Hooray, California public schooling system, I guess. But yes, I did. And, when I was a kid, when I was a little boy growing up, Super Mario was everywhere. And with the exception of the games, not much of it was any good. So, Jack409 wants to know the website where you can talk to women about the Wii U and meet them and marry them. The website was called plentyoffish.com, but I don't recommend going there anymore because it's kind of a mess. The company was sold, and it's just a big fat spam factory now. And that really, if you look at all the girls that are on there, they often come from this place in California called the Inland Empire, which I like to refer to as the butthole of the Southwest. And where all the desert rats who dig dudes with lots of tattoos on their neck and lifted trucks go to look for, their baby's daddy and talk about how much they love the UFC. I would change the name of that website to unrealisticexpectations.com. I really would. But, what are you going to do? Let me see here. Big J Man 123456 wants to know my thoughts on the all-female Ghostbusters in the works. This I think I've talked about this for the last few editions of Kaos Tonight, Monday Night Chaos, and even on the Pissing the live stream with the Hate Bit podcast guys. I don't see why there needs to be a third Ghostbusters movie. I played the Ghostbusters game. The script was not that strong, and that was their plans to be Ghostbusters 3. There didn't need to be a Ghostbusters 2. You know, and the Ghostbusters cartoon really only needed to run for about 2 years before it ran out of steam. And then it became about Slimer, and Slimer was not really an interesting character to begin with. I will not go see it. I just don't like movies anymore. You know, I just don't care. You know, I don't see why male or female has to matter. Because at the end of the day, we're all really the same. There's only, you make a few slight changes, and there's not much that separates men from women, especially with the obesity epidemic. Men have breasts, women have breasts. Men have multiple chins, women have multiple chins. You know, it's going to vary based on your specific taste. But I really don't see why there needs to be another Ghostbusters film. I'll just leave it at that. I don't understand that. There doesn't need to be one. I really think that that's really been explored. The dude wants to know my favorite movie genre. Black comedy. If you're unfamiliar with black comedy, it's different from dark comedy. Black comedy is what Tim Burton used to specialize in. I'm a big fan of that. So black comedy is probably my favorite film genre. That, and I like slapstick humor. I really do. I can't tell you why. I love the Marx Brothers films. I love a lot of Lucille Ball's stuff from the 40s before I Love Lucy. I like Abbott and Costello. And also the vacation movies with Chevy Chase, you know, all that sort of thing. So very much I love black humor, black comedy, and slapstick. Fatality 65 again wants to know my thoughts on the alleged disappearance of Hannah Minks. I don't know anything about that. So I really have no thoughts to make about it. Lupacilla says he's got the Kiss toys from McFarlane Toys. That's a shame. That's ugh. I remember a buddy of mine who was really into Kiss, and we played in a band together, and he wrote all the songs. And so all the songs sounded like second-rate Kiss songs, at least the lyrics did. But Mark had a fantastic handwriting style, so I could read all the lyrics. And we would try and write songs off of that, but he would collect all of them, and they were just terrible, like the Catman and the Star Child and blah, 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 blah. It was just bullshit to sell action figures. That was just really the thing at the time. You know, Kiss was the My Little Pony of their day, grown men spending all kinds of money to buy makeup and shit like that. It really was what it was. So, but that's the fact of the matter. Anyway, that's my time. That's all the time we have for Kaos Tonight. I thank you guys for stopping by and listening to me ramble. I hope to catch each and every one of you next time. Also, I want to remind you that right after our program, please click the link down below and check out Kid Shoryuken and Friends right after this program, and I hope you guys really enjoy it and have a great time. I hope, as I already said, I hope it's a great program. I hope you guys have a really good time. And I want to remind you, Pissing the Live Stream number 7 coming up on April the 3rd. Friday, April the 3rd. So I hope to see each and every one of you there. Also, don't forget, click the link down below. Check out all that stuff. Find me on your Twitter, on your Facebook, and all that sort of thing. I want to thank each and every one of you and remind you that you guys are great. And I have been the immortal Yellkaos. And thank you for watching Kaos Tonight. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Bye-bye. Good night.